Hey bros, it's Joe, and welcome back to another video with Max. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about a topic Max is pretty good in, and that is the world's worst conflict ever, which is
World War II.
now I'm going to be asking him some questions about World War II. Yeah, sorry I'm not facing towards Max, but we kind of have a limited amount of space to do filming, but yeah, first question. Let's see if you know everything. Who was the leader of Germany during World War II?
Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, and who was the leader of England?
The Prime Minister of England was Winston Churchill.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
Prime
who
Minister.
was the dictator of Italy
Benito Mussolini.
and Russia or the Soviet Union?
Joseph Stalin.
And here's a thing you probably don't know: who was the Emperor of Japan?
Hirohito.
Yeah, I actually know that. Good. Now, how many Jews died in the concentration camp?
According to what I read, at least Adolf Hitler murdered at least 6 million Jews, including people in concentration camps and people trying to escape from Nazi Germany.
Yeah, so, why don't you tell us some other bits of information you know, and I'm gonna put the camera solely on him. Tell us.
I'm sorry, I'm just... Where do I begin? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to look for a
No.
place to
Tell
begin.
them what you always tell me about World War II.
I like the military stories of the men who served in the United States military, like men who fought the Japanese in the Pacific, like a lot of the people.
Oh, another question. Who's the President of the United States during World War II?
Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Yes, that's good.
I've met a couple World War II veterans myself. This one man who was in the United States Navy. I met him, and a couple other men who were in the Army. So basically, I like to hear stories about a lot of those who served in World War II, like
Yeah,
American.
I also learned about it in my history class. I'm learning about like Stalin and everything, and I learned about how Stalin was as bad as Hitler and stuff. But in truth, nothing beats the Holocaust. That's like the biggest amount of people killed ever in a short amount of time.
When a lot of after D-Day, after the invasion of France, the United States, a lot of American soldiers went to these concentration camps, and they found, well, some of the most horrifying stuff you can ever find, like a lot of dead bodies, and they had to free a lot of Jews from these camps, and a lot of these concentration camps, like you have. And a lot of soldiers have come home and, they're telling their families of, like, stuff they didn't want to see. They have to put up with a bunch of difficult things, and it's just a sad thing they had to go through.
Now, another thing. Do you know why Hitler did not like the Jews?
To be honest with you, nobody really knows why, but...
Well, we're learning about a reason why he might hate the Jews. And that's because the Jews were seen as followers of the devil.
They were. A lot of people did, a lot of Nazis had portrayed Jews as people like that because Hitler was pretty much a racist. He was prejudiced against Jewish people. That's who he was.
Well, we're learning about that in history now, and it's kind of just like they were blamed for the death of Jesus, blamed for the Black Plague, and Hitler
and his followers, especially himself, he and a bunch of other people, they would just blame all of Germany's problems on the Jewish people. That's just who he was.
Now,
he was a very prejudiced man.
Let's see if you know information about this. How did the war start? Like what was the cause?
It started on September 1st, 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, and then in September 4th, I think, a couple days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. And then a couple years earlier, in 1937, the Japanese invaded China. Japan invaded parts of China and some parts of Southeast Asia, like the Philippines and the Dutch West Indies, which is now called Indonesia. They even tried attacking Australia a couple years later.
Yeah, and also I was also learning about the Italians. They invaded Ethiopia, so
The Italians did invade Ethiopia. They invaded much of North Africa, like Ethiopia, I think a part of Sudan, but I'm not sure. No, they invaded Egypt, they invaded Libya, and they invaded Algeria, part of Algeria. And
sorry if you can hear them. Like, you mean better.
oh yeah,
My
my little brother.
I haven't learned about the actual war yet. Well, I kind of have, but then I don't. But yeah, do you know what was one of the only countries in Europe to not be taken over by the Nazis?
There were some neutral countries in Europe there.
No, but what is one of them that was not taken?
Spain. Well, Spain was recovering from a war. Spain had the Spanish Civil War.
Yeah, I learned that like a dictator came out of that.
Yeah, I don't know much about the Spanish Civil War, but I know a couple years before World War II started, they were just getting over a civil war.
Yeah, and a dictator called Francisco Franco, I believe, became in power.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
And yeah, we learned about this in history as well. We're learning about everything in history, and yeah. So yeah, is there any other countries you've heard of that were not taken over?
Switzerland.
That's what I was talking about. And there's one other country in Europe.
There were two others. There was Sweden and Portugal. But a big mystery to us is that when Hitler never invaded Sweden, but he invaded its neighbors like Norway, Denmark, and Finland, but he didn't invade Sweden. Which it's kind of a question I don't have the answer to, why he didn't disrespect, Swedish laws or the Swedish country. He never really did. He just left Sweden alone for some reason. It's kind of an answer, I can't really, it's kind of a question I don't know the answer to.
Now, do you know what is the estimated amount of people who died?
I've read, and a lot of books I read about World War II, I would see the answer, but I don't know at the top of my head right now, but
it was something like 65 million or something. I don't know.
I think it was somewhere around 65 million. I don't know at the top of my head now. I think I need a book or something, but
no.
I don't know at the top of my head, but there was quite a lot of people who died. Yes, it was in the millions. You're talking about you're talking about women and children, like civilians, and you're talking about soldiers, and you're talking about like Americans, Germans, British, Italian. It's a lot of military people died in. There was a lot of attacking, and
bombing.
Oh yes, a lot of bombings. If you think tragedies in here on American soil, like the 9/11 or the Boston Marathon bombing was bad, then those were everyday things in Europe. Like, you have these cities in Germany and, France, and they're just getting torn apart. Like, they're just,
like
flattened to the ground.
In a documentary I found, they said the Spanish, not the Spanish, like the French city of blah 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 was obliterated by bombing.
Paris. And after, right before the war ended, the United States Army Air Force, now just called the U.S. Air Force, they sent out thousands of squadrons of B-24s and B-17s, and P-51s and a bunch of other fighter planes, and and the same thing with England. Both countries bombed Berlin, Germany's capital, to pretty much the ground. Like, if you could imagine, you're in Berlin, and just imagine, picture in your head 1,000 bombers flying over Germany and just dropping different explosives. And, there's just explosions all around you. It's just impossible to survive. Like, Germany lost like a quarter of its people during those days of bombing raids.
Hey, you guys.
No, Jim, you weren't meant to be in this video.
Sorry, guys, this is Jim from Jim Jones channel.
So yeah, I think we might want to end the thing here. Thank you for your time. Please like,
Thank you
comment,
all.
subscribe, and
Thank you
yeah,
guys for watching.
this is World War II, the world's worst conflict, covered in its vlog. So bye.
Goodbye,
Do a
and
video
don't
just for
forget to
cameras.
like, and don't
Yeah.
forget to subscribe,
Yeah,
and please leave a comment below if you want to.
yeah, bye.
Bye.